All guests on ZASLOW Show 2.0 brought to us by the official beer of the program, Johnny Cuba. How else are you going to enjoy the weekend? There's so many big games. Big game or not a big game? Come on. There's so many big games. How else are you going to enjoy it without an ice-cold six-pack of Johnny Cuba? Go to johnnycuba.us. You can use the Johnny Cuba locator. You can find the nearest location next to you. Be it Sedano's or Presidente, Winn-Dixie. All kinds of other locations as well. So go to johnnycuba.us and you can use the Johnny locator. Make sure you always drink responsibly. Don't forget Johnny Cuba's mantra, stay tranquilo. So this week, it is the rare week that I am not next to Amber Wilson doing Amber and Ian. So I figure that doesn't sit right. So we got to have Amber come on ZASLOW Show 2.0 and we'll chop it up here a little bit. Amber, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. It is a weird week. It's weird. It's Friday, and it's strange that we're not doing a show together tonight. So at least we're getting one in today.
I think tonight, either tonight or next week, it's like the last Friday, like for the rest of the year that I'm not on with you. Mm-hmm. So it's going to get back to being a regular Friday thing. So we're going to get back into a nice little routine. And especially when the summer, things start to slow down a little bit. So I think it's good timing for us to be doing the show a little bit more often. So I wanted to make sure I got you on here. All right. So, and by the way, I had you on here because I want to talk NBA. I know you love talking NBA. You don't always get the chance necessarily because you do a national show. So we're going to talk NBA here. But I am doing, and I don't do it every week, today's show, I am doing big movie or not a big movie. Do you want to stick around for that as well?
No, I do not. I do not miss that segment. And if we ever do a permanent show together again, we'll be in discussions about whether that makes the permanent show.
It's so funny.
I haven't seen a movie in years, I don't think. I haven't been to a movie theater in well over a decade at this point. And I don't watch movies. I don't watch movies. I watch sports.
We're going tonight. We're going as a family. We're going to ZASLOW Family Movie Night, all right? We're going out tonight. We're going to go see, I think it came out today. I'll tell everybody when I do big movie, not a big movie. No spoilers. Sure. But we're going tonight to see The Fall Guy, the new movie with Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt. Sure. Have you seen previews for that? You don't know what that is?
I don't know anything about. I could not tell you a single movie that's in the movie theater right now. Like not a single one. I mean, Ryan Gosling's hot. Like I can tell you that. That's about all I can tell you. That's the end of my analysis.
All right. Well, all right. So that was helpful to something. All right, so you're out for big movie, not a big movie. I'll let you go before that.
Yeah, I'm out. Yeah.
Okay, maybe next time. So anyway, and it's funny because Israel Gutierrez sent me a message like a few weeks ago, randomly, out of nowhere. I don't know why. He sent me a message. He says, "Have you done big game or not a big game yet on ESPN radio?" And I said, no, I haven't. I know it would kill. Whenever the time is coming. I told him. I feel like I have to have my name on a show
before you do that.
Like that.
Yeah, before you give away all the goods. I did steal big deal, not a big deal from you. I did not steal big game, not a big game. Now, if we were ever doing a permanent show together on ESPN, I would allow big game, not a big game, but it would be hilarious because there'd be complexities because I would dare you to say it's not a big game when it's on our airwaves on ESPN. Like I dare you. That would be funny.
Well, we'll see.
It's prime time. ESPN, not a big game.
Not a big game. I keep it real.
Love that.
I keep it real. Not a big game. Sorry. I know you paid billions of dollars for the TV rights. It's not a big game.
But tune in anyways.
So let me get some of your thoughts. My audience, they love you. They want to hear your thoughts on the Miami Heat. All right. Are you angry right now? Are you annoyed? Maybe you're okay with everything because it's going to essentially lead to some change. What are the emotions right now about the Miami Heat for Amber Wilson?
How can you really be angry with a couple finals appearances, with what we've done in the postseason throughout the basically entire Jimmy Butler era here? I mean, what do we actually have to be angry about? It's been so good all of these years that Jimmy has been here. And we know why we weren't going to be competitive in that series against the Celtics. I was happy that we took a game in Boston, and I understand that sounds loserish, but the reality is we didn't have Jimmy, we didn't have Scary Terry. I don't
think it sounds loserish. I think getting swept versus not getting swept is a big deal. I don't think it's
and listen, we saw freaking Phoenix Suns get swept, right? They didn't have that pride, and our role players and Bam, they had that pride. So I was really proud of those guys being able to, frankly, take one up there and in their house and let Boston know, hey, we still, even though we're not full strength and we're incredibly injured, like UD said, first stop that we need to make to the hospital to get better. He said that on ESPN the other day. I thought that was funny, but that's the reality of the situation. But even though we're not full strength, even though we're that broken, still coming, Boston. We ain't like, we're still here. We're still going to let you know this has been our house. This has been our house. So I'm proud of that. I'm not angry at all because it's been a hell of a half decade that we've gotten out of these guys, frankly. And then also I think that there's got to be changes made moving forward. And I hope that this is the precipice of that for the front office. I know Jimmy Butler is asking for an extension. Don't fault him for that. Dude's in his mid-30s. Of course he's asking for an extension. He wants a couple-year extension. He wants big money. That's his job, is to try to go get that. It's the front office's job to try to make that work if they're keeping Jimmy, and also bring in some more help around Jimmy, because just Bam isn't enough. We know that. Some of these other players, they're nice role players. Some of these contracts obviously look ugly. Some of them look less ugly than they were, like the Duncan contract. It's getting less ugly as time goes on, as things do. And I think that we're at a point now, this off season, where the front office hopefully will realize we can't expect Spo to make miracles every season. We can't go from 8th seed to NBA finals. Like, that is not a good plan. We've got to figure out a way to sustain things. And if we're moving forward with Jimmy Butler, which I'm a huge advocate of, but we also have to recognize that dude's not going to be available a lot of the times in the regular season, and the regular season still matters. And so we've got to find a way to sustain in the regular season so that we're not always in a play-in situation. And in my book, that means bringing in another star. The
Jimmy Butler situation is weird to me, Amber, because yes, he obviously is going to want an extension. He wants to add an extra 2 years to his deal, which would be a total of 3 more years from right now. And he wants it to be, it's a significant raise, the final 2 years. But like, it's a weird thing, right? Because he wants more money and more money on an annual basis as well, when you're not as good as you were, which is reasonable because of his age, and
right.
you're coming off of a year where you weren't available, but it's give me more money. I'm not going to be as good as I was, but I want more money than you were paying me before. It's a really tricky situation.
Well, I think that's why, though. I think from his perspective, he's probably feeling the age for the first time, right? Like, he's been able to overcome it all this time and kind of hide it. And I think this season was the first season that we're like, all right, that dude's on, he's on the decline. Like, we're not declined yet, but like, yes, he's on the decline a little bit. I mean, it happens to everybody. LeBron's still playing at an unbelievable clip, but he's not LeBron height of LeBron, right? So it's always compared to yourself in your prime. Jimmy is obviously going to be on the wrong side of his prime in his mid-30s, and that's reasonable. And so if you're Jimmy, I think you're looking at your own future and you're trying to advocate for yourself, and you probably recognize, hey, I would like some assurances here. I want that stability, and I want that commitment from the organization. It's awkward timing asking for it. I would imagine that the plan was from him and his agent to ask for it no matter what, coming off of the season, right? Like, it wouldn't have mattered if we made the postseason, if we didn't make the post. Like, I'm guessing that was his plan. And again, that's fine. I'm not going to fault the player who is in his mid-30s for trying to get the security. Like, do you, but also now it's on the front office to do them. Like, they don't necessarily have to give in to that demand and give him everything he wants. And there's always ways to work things in the future moving forward. Sending him to the Philadelphia 76ers, like everybody on our airwaves at ESPN keeps mentioning, is not one of those things. I want to be real clear about that. Yes, Perk is on my show on Amber and Ian yesterday saying this nonsense about Jimmy needs to go to Philly. I'm like, like, does anybody remember first of all, we did that? Like, we did that. Y'all ran him out, by the way, remember that? But then also, Wendy's also saying it now. I just heard today. Greeny talking about Windhorse is saying, Jimmy Butler should go to Philadelphia. What are we doing? What the hell are we doing? Stop it.
Wow. I'll bet there's a lot of Heat fans who are good with, all right, Jimmy's been here for 5 years. He's not a leading guy anymore. He's not available enough. And there are going to be Heat fans who are open to trading him. I don't know how much you would be able to get for him, but that's not the point I'm making. The point I'm making is, Amber, I would be such an awful general manager. I get way too attached to players. I'm way too emotional. And for me, I want to win, but the way that we win is almost as important to me as the winning. And like, I think I'm probably in the grand minority when it comes to that line of thinking. I want to win with Jimmy Butler.
You're so full of shit. You're so full of
it's
shit.
true.
You would not, if we won an NBA Finals, you wouldn't give a damn how we got there. Stop.
No, but if I have my choice,
real fast if it was without Jimmy or Bam or anybody on this team.
If I have my choice, I want to find a way to make it work with Jimmy. I don't want to trade him. I want there to be a cherry on top of this sundae from the last 5 years. I want him to be a part of it. And I don't know how they're going to be able to make significant enough moves to this roster by keeping Bam and Jimmy together. But here's also the thing, and I talked about this on yesterday's show in regards to Pat Riley. I'd like Pat Riley to get back to the way that he used to operate. And what I mean by that is, I gave the example of when Shaq got here in Shaq's first year. They made it to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in 2005. Like, that was a championship-worthy team. Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. And what did Pat Riley do? He looked at it and said, this is not good enough. I'm blowing it up. And he traded for Jason Williams and Antoine Walker and James Posey. And they ended up winning the championship the next year. But the point was, if you wait until the thing hits rock bottom, if you wait until you're at the point where everyone knows that it's not good enough, you've waited way too long. And I wonder, have we waited way too long with this group here to make the big change?
Maybe. I do think it's a bit overstated in today's NBA. Like, Pat Riley's job, I think, has probably changed a bit from maybe even back then, because at this point now, we are a bona fide championship organization. We are an excellent top tier organization. Nobody negates that across the entire landscape of the NBA. And so he's already solidified the legacy of the Miami Heat with those other championships and those years that you're referencing. Back then, like in the Shaq days, he's trying to build that. He's not building any of that anymore. So yes, of course, he still wants to win championships. But frankly, the dirty little secret about all these organizations is, frankly, it ain't ever championship or bust for the ownership group, right? Or even necessarily for the front office, because the front office, like Pat Riley, has all the job security in the world. The coach obviously has all the job security in the world. Everyone thinks he's the best coach in the NBA, even if he only gets one against Boston in the first round. And so I do think it's a bit overstated, this idea that the Heat are only successful if, in fact, we're winning championships. It's been unbelievably successful in the Jimmy Butler era. And you can't negate the fact that if you're a couple finals appearances, the Eastern Conference finals appearances, everything that's happened here over the last 5 years, that's monster success, period, point blank. That's making the Arisons money, period, point blank. That's making the organization money, period, point blank, and everybody who works for the organization. And so, yes, as fans, we actually want the rings on the fingers. But I do think that probably behind the scenes, the secret whispers that happen, and I'm not saying that Pat Riley's still not a killer, but the reality is, I think sometimes as fans, we have this concept that the organization is only winning if they're actually winning rings. And the reality is they have won, even if this Jimmy Butler era ends right here. They have won and won and won during it, even though they won't have a trophy at the end. So I do think if you're Pat Riley, you're probably going to the Arisons last 5 years, like, heck, we're doing right. Like, we're doing good. Like, if you're the owner of the team right now, like, you're pretty damn happy with what's happened during this Jimmy Butler era. Would it be nicer to have a trophy? Sure. But at the end of the day, there's been a lot of success in this era. Now, I do think because Jimmy Butler has been an overall success here, and because he is a well-respected player across the league, I don't think you're trading Jimmy unless he's like cool with it, right? Unless he wants to be traded either. Because I do think that there's a component of that and the reputation. We don't see that often now in the NBA. Like, everyone appeases the superstar. And so although the Heat haven't necessarily traditionally been known for completely giving in, probably why LeBron left here. I mean, the reality is that in 2024, yep, he's a superstar a little bit, So I don't think that they move on from Jimmy unless Jimmy's totally cool with it. Now, Jimmy might be totally cool with it if another organization's willing to offer him that extension that he's asking for from Miami. And that's the reality. Obviously, he's a trade chip. I'm with you. I don't know what the value would be. He's still a great player, but he's a player that's often unavailable. And he's a player in his mid-30s. None of that helps his value. I would imagine it would be better for the Heat to try to continue to improve around him. But one of the problems that you have is that your number one is in his mid-30s and everybody else is young as hell. And the teams that are winning right now in the NBA are young as hell. Like, I feel like we're seeing this changing of the guard. Like, the oldest teams in the NBA are the Lakers, the Suns, okay? Those teams ain't playing. The Clippers is on that list. This is off the top of my head. What were the other two?
And they're gonna lose tonight, the Clippers. Yep.
Right. The Clippers are gonna get bounced. And was it the Sixers?
Maybe the Warriors?
No, it wasn't the Warriors. It might have been the Sixers. I don't know. But my point is those were a few of the top 5 oldest teams in the NBA. And all of the top 5 oldest teams in the NBA were either bounced or in danger of being bounced in the first round. And so I think that that's real indicative of the general direction. And I don't know then how you kind of fit that direction with also a dude in his mid-30s. Like, that's the complicating factor here.
So, Amber, excellent job, by the way, on all of that analysis about the Heat. I'm sure that was very cathartic. You don't normally get to do all of that on Amber and Ian, right?
I don't. I think it was the Bucks.
That was cathartic for you right there.
Very cathartic. I love talking about Miami Heat. They only let me do it some.
So, Knicks and Sixers last night and the entire series, phenomenal. That was an unbelievable. What? You don't agree?
Okay, like, hold on. Okay, because yes, it was a very good first round series.
It was a classic series.
Oh my God. Why does everyone keep saying that? How is it classic when you have Joel Embiid, the biggest superstar in that series, who's fighting every single ailment under the sun, right? The knee injury, Bell's palsy, the migraines. I mean, this dude is so unbelievably hobbled. Already that to me can't make it one of the best series in NBA history, because like not everyone's full strength, right? Like you can't have the most important player and the biggest superstar in that series who is so incredibly hobbled to the point where now everyone's like, oh, Jalen Brunson's the best player in the universe. And it's like, what? Like, I think Paul Hembo on Greeny today called Jalen Brunson a top 5 player in the league. I'm like, what the bleep? And then Greeny said this was one of the best series in NBA history. I'm like, bro, it is a first round series. And Joel Embiid was broken, like prisoner of the moment. It was a good series. It was fun. Everyone needs to calm the hell down. I think New York and Philadelphia are very close proximity. And I think that's part of this. Like, I genuinely think it's like, oh, it's 2 big markets and they're really close to each other. And so there's a lot of fanfare on both sides. And also they invade each other's arenas when they're able to. And like, that all factors into this. But like, best series in NBA history? Like, what?
Wow. I mean, I'm not saying it's
series last year was better. Like, what are we doing?
I'm not saying best series ever, but I mean, when you call it a classic series, that's a pretty broad term. I don't think that means it's the best series ever. It means
it's going to be on some list. Like, we're all going to be talking about it in 10 years because it was so classic. You think we're talking about a first round series with a broken Joel Embiid in 10 years? No.
Okay. All right.
Right?
All right.
I mean, am I the only one? I mean, Tyrese Maxey is now, according to people, Bobby Marks is out here on our airwaves saying that Tyrese Maxey is the face of the 76ers. I heard people say that he's the best player on the 76ers. The best goddamn player on ZASLOW. Joel Embiid was playing at an MVP level. Like, he was the entire best player in the entire NBA before he got injured back in January. And oh, by the way, he's the reigning MVP. Tyrese Maxey is the best player on the 76ers when you have a reigning MVP on that team who was the best player in the NBA before a major injury. Like, what is happening?
Wow, you are fired
good,
up.
But he's not the best Knick that's ever existed. You literally have Charles Oakley out here saying that Jalen Brunson is the best Knick, that he's better than Patrick Ewing.
No.
Yes, He literally said that. He said he's doing things that Ewing and Melo never did. I'm like,
okay, I think the conversation is, I do think Jalen Brunson is ahead of Carmelo, but
okay,
Ewing,
first of all, not if you consider Carmelo Anthony's resume, even his resume while he was there in New York, and you consider the accolades. I mean, Jalen Brunson's not even on the Olympic team. Like, what are we talking about? But Patrick Ewing went to multiple NBA finals while he was there.
Crazy.
Like, what the heck?
Who was saying this?
However many times. Like, what are we talking about?
And who was saying this? Oakley?
Yes, Charles Oakley.
Wow.
Everyone's lost their mind over this damn series, and I need everyone to calm down. It was a good series. Everyone relax. That's it.
Wow. All right. You heard her. You heard her. Everybody relax. All right. I am talk about relax. Amber, I am very angry with what took place last night in the Bucks Pacers game. Late in the game, Patrick Beverly, who his act has been tired for 10 years. All right.
Yeah.
And Patrick Beverly, he throws the ball into the crowd, hits a woman in the head, and then he gets the ball back, throws it again. And I guess the person he wanted to throw the ball at. And by the way, you could see Brooke Lopez right next to Patrick Beverly. Like, Brooke Lopez is embarrassed. You could see, it's like, what the fuck is happening?
They grab him, don't they? After he ends up throwing it back again?
Yeah. Yeah.
They
like Brooke
Lopez.
Lopez. Yeah. Brooke's embarrassed with what's happening right now. But then Amber, in the locker room. All right. And he's got the scrum around him. And you got the field producer who she apparently works for ESPN. And she's right next to him and she's holding the mic. And excuse me. And now apparently this is something that he's done several times throughout the season. Does the "Are you subscribed to my pod?" You know, that's he's wearing the hat. "Are you subscribed to my pod?" Like, that's his thing. All right. And she says no. Like, she's not a reporter. She's a field producer. She's caught very off guard by this whole situation. And then he proceeds to humiliate her in front of all. He didn't ask any of the men if they're subscribed to his podcast. He asked the one woman standing next to him if she's subscribed. And then he proceeds to push her microphone out of the way and asks her to leave. Amber, if that wasn't bad enough, and we could say whatever we want about Patrick Beverly, and I do want your thoughts there, because I would also like to know how you would have handled that if you were in that spot as maybe the only female standing in that circle right there. But the part that really bothers me, can one of these males who are standing around there grow a fucking pair and say something to Patrick Beverly while this woman, the only woman standing there, is being humiliated by another man? Can somebody say something, Amber?
I don't know. I don't feel like that as a woman, because I feel like I can handle myself. Like, I don't need a man coming in and like handling the situation for me, right? I'm in a professional environment. I can handle it myself. I would have gone back at Pat Bev. Maybe this is also why I'm not a reporter or a field producer, right? Because I wouldn't have time for that shit. I really hate when athletes disrespect members in the media who are clearly just doing their jobs. And I understand he doesn't know the difference between field producers and reporters. But the reality is Patrick Beverly at this point is basically a member of the media first and a basketball player second. He is more likely to be that woman's colleague sooner rather than later than have some long career here continuing forward in the NBA. Like, that's where we're at with Patrick Beverly's career. And that's not an insult to Patrick Beverly. He's got a very popular podcast. He's probably going to be very popular in the media, but he's also very likely to work here at ESPN. And so why are we being rude to other people who work at ESPN? Like, that's number one. And then I also just have no time for these athletes who act like they're doing media members a favor when they're doing these locker room interviews or post-game pressers, because, by the way, that's part of their job description. It's not a favor. Like, it's not a favor to us that you're giving us our time. This is how it works. It's quite literally part of your job description. It's in your contract that you're going to end up doing these interviews and that you have to have a certain amount of media availability. And it's how all of this works. It's why the networks pay so much money for the television rights. And in turn, they get this level of access. And that's how the whole system goes around. And it's how everybody makes money. And some of that money finds its way into the pockets of the players themselves. And so I hate this idea when they act like it's a favor for them to be like giving her his time, when the reality is it's his damn job. And like, she's doing her job, do your damn job. And by the way, her job is not to subscribe to your podcast. Her job is to put a microphone in your face and to get the sound, period. And that's the reality of the situation. I did not understand. I mean, my initial thought was the same as yours, which I was like, did he ask any of the men around? Did they subscribe? But I don't know, because I don't know the context of like if he knew the other reporters and he didn't recognize her because she's a field producer. There could have been some semblance of that because a lot of these athletes get to know the beat writers. So maybe the other people standing around were beat writers. Maybe they are subscribed to the Pat Bev podcast because of that, because they cover that team more closely than she does, since she's national. I don't know the dynamics there. So I won't go like full automatic sexism. Let's play that card. It doesn't look good. It's not a great look when you're singling out the only woman that appears to be there in the crowd. But at the same time, it's just bleepy whether she was a man or a woman. And she was clearly taken aback by the exchange. And I think I would have said something to him about, do your damn job. And there's no reason to be so rude. Like, just do your job as I'm doing mine.
I felt really bad for her. Like, I think I know everyone else is coming to her defense at ESPN, especially because they know who she is, and they've worked with her and their talk. Obviously, Pat Beverly embarrassed himself, but I also think he humiliated her. He humiliated her in front of those other people there. And it's weird. Like, I understand.
He totally did. Demoralized her. And I don't know, again, like, this is a guy who himself is trying to be media. Like, that's what's crazy about it. All these players now who are so damn rude to the media still. And it's like, y'all are trying to be us, man. What the hell?
And I understand your perspective where, you want to be a tough, you want to be a tough female who is able to stand up for herself. But from my perspective, there's nothing wrong with me still wanting to, I don't know that it's protect women, but that men should still show respect to females. Like, I understand we all want to be on an equal playing field. Men, women, it's no different, but there is still a part of me. And I think there should still be a part of other men that, like, women should still be treated with great respect because they're women.
I mean, I get if you're talking about a physical altercation, obviously there are physical, just the reason we tend to protect women is obviously there are physical disparities between men and women and the strength of men and women. And so, yes, if a man's physically attacking a woman in front of you, then I would be sitting here like, why aren't any of these other dudes doing anything, right? Like, why is nobody else doing anything? But when you're just talking about a verbal exchange, and it's not like he wasn't mother bleeping her either at the same time. My favorite part of the clip, by the way, is that he says respectfully. And you and I always
respectfully
love it.
While I humiliate you in front of everybody. But
I'm incredibly disrespectful. Yes, respectfully, ma'am, please move the microphone out of my face or whatever he said. Respectfully get out of the circle. It's like, okay, there ain't nothing respectful about that. But again, I do think, when you're just talking about how you speak to a woman, I strongly don't feel like I need a man to come to my defense. I can handle myself in that position. But the reality is, again, it shouldn't matter if she's a man or if he was doing that to a man, it's just as disrespectful. Like, if he's doing that to a guy who's a reporter who has a mic in his face, like, do you subscribe to my podcast? No, then you're not allowed to be here. It's like, actually, I am, because ESPN's paying me to be here to literally put this microphone in your face, and you're being paid by the NBA and your team to, talk into it. Like, that's the reality of the relationship here. And it's not contingent on me subscribing to your podcast, which if I was her, I would not be subscribing to anytime soon. So yeah, he made himself look like a dumbass. And the reality is probably still going to get hired by ESPN sooner rather than later. And he's about to be on equal playing field with them.
I don't think so, Amber. I think last night was really damaging. Now, look, he's still going to do his thing in the media, but you think ESPN is now going to say, we want that guy working for us who treated her, one of our employees, like that? I don't know, Amber. I think last night was a big deal.
Love to have more faith in the networks, and maybe, and generally speaking, I do think ESPN does a pretty decent job.
ESPN doesn't need Patrick Beverly.
ESPN does not need Patrick Beverly. Now, has Draymond Green also been rude to people throughout his entire career? And do I think he's going to have some unbelievably lucrative media deal after his playing days are over? Yes. Could I see it happening on our airwaves? Probably. Like the athletes in our business are treated different than the rest of us. It's just the reality of the situation. And I understand, of course, why, and the star power and the perspective that they bring. So I don't know if that one exchange, maybe it will harm him with ESPN specifically, but with the network level, I mean, ZASLOW, there's a dude on another network who went to federal prison, who wrote an entire book about abusing, allegedly abusing. Do I have to say allegedly when you wrote the book about like how misogynistic he was and how he mistreated ladies of the night? And I mean, I just like the stuff in the book from himself, and then the fact that he also, allegedly, although convicted of it, scammed people out of, money, ticket, whatever.
Yeah, I don't think that's alleged. He went to prison.
Just don't come after me, Craig Parton. The point is, the rudest exchange I've ever had in my entire life on air was with him at the very beginning of my career many years ago. And he makes a gajillion more dollars than me and has unbelievable real estate. And it quite literally has not mattered anything he's done in his life or how he's treated people, and particularly women along the way. So do I have much faith in the network level in our business? Not so much.
All right.
And that's just some dude. That dude never played sports. Like, that's just some guy. That's just some guy. He's just some guy. He's just some guy with a New York accent. Like, he's just some guy.
Just some guy.
Can't find any of those anywhere. Anyways.
Amber Wilson, you said it all. Do you feel like now we did a lot of Heat here, we did a lot of NBA. I feel like you got a lot of good stuff out of your system. Are you going to have anything left tonight for Amber and Ian at 7 p.m.?
Well, I don't think I would be doing any of that on Amber and Ian tonight. We're actually 7 to 9 p.m. tonight, shortened show. Okay. Because we've got NBA coming up after us. But I will have plenty on air. We will, I'm sure, be doing 76ers Knicks tonight as well, getting you ready for the NBA action that's live tonight. And I'm sure we'll throw in some other stuff, but I'll miss you, kid. It's Friday night. You're not with me. It's weird.
I will miss you too. Are you sure? Do you miss me enough to stick around for Big Movie, Not a Big Movie?
No.
Yeah.
Never.
Okay. All right. I figured. All right. Great job, Amber.
Bye.